This is also one of the major problem currently we are facing, right? So, Aadhaar enabled payments systems, right? So, have you heard about any of the cases related to Aadhaar enabled payments? So, money theft from your bank account by your Aadhaar. So, how it is possible?
SIM card. We give the Aadhaar and fingerprint.
Yeah, no. For SIM card, they take your, because you have to authenticate just by verifying your fingerprint, they are issuing you the SIM card. But how can, you can't get a new SIM card just like that nowadays.
No, before it was happening, sir. They didn't.
I'm talking about the current one. So currently this is a trend happening on the Aadhaar enabled payments are getting hacked. So one thing is attackers are reconstructing the fingerprints. So how they get the fingerprint? Fingerprints can be reconstructed. A lot of silicon gels and other things are available in the material which are available in Chinese market. You can import them and you can do it. Very simple, right? So you can just have a Google search, it can give you all the information, right? So the question is where the data leakage is happening. So where you can get the accurate fingerprint. So, Aadhaar database you can't, they see government claims that it is highly secured. So how can you go there and again? But you can't ask the individual, right? You can go to victim and you can say, hey, please put your fingerprint. No one is going to do that. Okay, so then what is the case? How it is possible for someone to forge a fingerprint?
Restaurants. Like we are eating food, we drink water from the glass. The glass is there only.
Okay. The problem is, right, so those things are not authentic fingerprints. You can't extract exactly. Forensics and other things they extract, but they try to compare not fully, very part only. So where you have to have a full accurate fingerprint, then only you can able to reconstruct it. So how about the register office, where your land registration and other registration are happening, sub-registrar office, right? So they are stealing the information from there, right? So there are use cases which witnessed, so just from your selfie photograph, they could able to reconstruct your fingerprints. You are doing photographs, right? So if they have a high definition, high quality camera with better lens, they can zoom, they can take a shot. That is possible, right? So they are reconstructing and they are using it, right? So this is one of the major problem which is happening for Aadhaar enabled payments. So and again, what could be the possible solution for it? Remediation. What could be the possible remediation for it? You can lock your biometric. You can lock your biometric access because whenever you go to mobile shop, you are putting your biometric, right? So it is grabbing all your data to a mobile shop vendor, right? He is not even an ISP, he is just a vendor. Likewise, you go to any mobile shop, they will ask you to put the fingerprint for giving you a SIM. How your database access is given to him? You can lock it out. Once you lock it out, assume you lost your phone somehow. For getting a new SIM or to get the old SIM also, they will ask you to put up your fingerprint. If you lock your fingerprint and your mobile you already lost, how will you get the OTP? Without OTP, your actual channel cannot be opened. Right? You got the point what I am trying to convey. Again, there is a big mistake. Right? So what could be the possible solution for this particular problem? Right? You can think about it. You can just have think about it. Right? And the next thing, the major part what I want to discuss is, so AI for security is already there, but now we need security for AI, right? That is what the hot trend going on. And if you look at deep into the LLMs, right? So the LLMs what you have currently, it's a next generation cyber weapons. Whatever we are having currently is completely a next generation cyber weapons, right? So these are all typical use case. If you take a zero-day exploit, right, which is completely generated by a LLM, right? So the existing tools or any of the scripts or cannot able to find or figure out what exactly it is, right? And again, a LLM can generate its own unique code because it has a knowledge. LLM can generate its own compiler, right? You can develop your own programming language using LLM, with which it's already not known to the real world, right? And again, it can also generate different set of polymorphic and metamorphic malwares, which can possess its own capacity of transformation in runtime, right? And identity theft and defense evasion. So these are all some of the additional features what LLM is capable of, right? So that's the reason I am pinpointing LLM could be the next cyber weapon, and I have few illustrated use cases. Right? This is a typical example with which we attempted 9 to 10 months ago. No, more than that, a year ago. Because last December we attempted. This is a year ago. Now if you ask the same question, okay, I'll go back. If you ask the same question to LLM, ChatGPT, it's typically ChatGPT. Okay, you know about LLM, right? LLM means large language model, right? So whatever now you have a comprehend text model, right? So those things are this only, right? So the base was ChatGPT, which runs on GPT 4 and 3.5. Good, right? So these are all some of the things. So it can also give you a malicious code. It can also give you a malicious code. So you can execute a commandlet. You can execute a commandlet through your ChatGPT, right? So currently they applied few restrictions, but when we attempted a year ago, when it got released in the month of November, I think in the last, I think 30th or 29th they released. So we attempted this in December, same, this duration last year we attempted, right? So how a particular LLM can go for a fileless malware creation. So this is a theoretical explanation. So this is a short illustration how a fileless malwares can go. So what is basically a fileless malware? Any idea?
Something that runs without having to install anything onto the system.
Come again?
Something that runs or exploits without having to install anything onto the system.
Have to install anything onto a system. There are some malwares which can act as a runnable. It won't have anything. It don't have anything, because there is a deep difference between a runnable, installable and executable, right? So any malware can have something which does not need to go for installation. Even if your malware has a malicious code, you don't need to run it. Once upon downloading, your antivirus will block it. If that is the scenario, how it is possible? Then what is the actual meaning of a fileless malware? Fileless malware means it does not have any files. It takes the capacity or capability of a particular system to execute its malicious action. If you take a Windows machine has its own features. Like, let us assume I want to log the keystrokes, a basic functionality of a malware. I want to log a keystroke. I want to take a screenshot of what my victim is doing. I want to record his screens, right? These are all some of the functionality a malware can do, capable of doing it, right? So whenever you are pressing any key, the event gets created. Everything is an event, right? When you do a on click or whenever you press any key, everything is an event. Everything gets recorded, right? So how the Windows system is putting that as an event? Because there are functionality which is going to call a hook, and then finally it is going to record it. The same functionality malware will also utilize. It won't have anything on it, right? So now that is called as a fileless malware. So now the thing is, or else a user, whatever the user has, right? From there it can weaponize the user level tools and to launch an attack. That is also another property of a fileless malware. Now if you take how a fileless malware attack model can be executed by the help of LLM. This is a short illustration. right? So now, when you take a malware has to reside on a particular computer to do its action. Now what happens? A attacker sends you a simple file which has only access to Open API. Now what happens? It's just a empty file which can only communicate to OpenAI's API. That's it. Now what happens? Whatever the attacker sends as a command. Now what happens? The callback function which is set on the particular malware will query that in OpenAI's API. There it generates the code and the code gets executed. That is what the thing is. Attackers just simply sends a command. And those commands are not a blocklisted command. Right? So then finally it goes there, get processed, again comes here, executed. So it is a bit dangerous. This is a simple architecture for how a possible kill chain model can be formed by LLMs. Right? So these are all typical portal for your cybercrime registration. So if you have any cybercrime related complaints, you can visit this National Cybercrime Reporting Portal. So from Government of India for reporting it. And if you have anything related to any of your image got abused, right? You can go with this particular portal, right? You can just note it down, right? So and again, one more thing I just want to share with you is, okay, so let me go for one of the thing. Okay, so I'll show you how the current security systems are going on. No worries, I am not going to execute Black Panther. Okay, so okay, fine. So it's not password protected. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll just go to my Gmail. Okay, so this is what. So now if I, okay, now I am putting this particular file in my Gmail. It's allowing me. Why? I don't know. Okay, so let me delete it. Okay, WinRAR, I'll just make a zip file. Okay, now I got a zip file. Let me go here. Let me attach it. So what happened? So it shows virus detected. Perfect. Let me close this. Go back. Okay, let me delete this particular file. Okay, right click, WinRAR, add to archive, zip. Okay, so infected. Okay, this is my password. Zip legacy encryption. Okay. So when I open it, okay, fine. So let me go back here, update. Nothing. What's this? Gmail is doing a partiality. So, hey, how many of you don't understand the action which I did? Did you notice it? You don't understand? Really? Did you watch it? At least tell me what I did. Just tell me what I did. I'm just asking you. Hooray. So these things you'll edit in the things now, bro. Okay, thanks. Hey, ఏమిరా చెప్తావు మీరు? Hey. Huh? Just to give me a thing, Ra. What I did, what is the action I did? Hey, see, I didn't explain to you any technically, right? I'm just showing you everything in a live. I had a malicious code, I zipped it, and I uploaded it. What happened? It's kids. Shh. Alright. What I did? I zipped it and I uploaded it. It's basically a virus code. What happened? My Gmail online AV flagged that it as a malware. You got it? I didn't run it. Your whatever the answer which you said, I cleared it. Even I don't need to have it as a runnable. Just a file which has its own malicious action can be detected. That is the proof of it. Got it? It detected. Then what I did again, okay, it's detecting that it's virus. Then what I did? The same zip, I added a password. Then I uploaded. What happened? It didn't detect it. Right? So what is your inference? I want AC. Hope you are okay, right? It's suffocating. Huh? What? Okay, what is your inference out of it? Huh? What is the inference out of it? Anything. That's what I'm concluding. Perfect. Anything, if it is password protected, it bypasses any security systems. That is the proof I have shown you. Anything which is password protected can easily bypass any of your security system. That's the proof. You can able to see lively, right? So always be cautious. Okay.
Sir, but usually when the recipient gets such a mail, won't they get a message that Gmail cannot scan this, right? Be careful, it might.
But it scanned it now.
No. The recipient tries to.
That is what I am saying, man. When the size is above something, because AV is also having some set of offset from starting point to ending point. If it couldn't able to reach, it can't do it, because how long everything is a hash indirectly when the signature database is getting compared. For when you increase the size, this is also getting increased. How long it can go? Then that's the reason it's throwing error. Then what happens? You download it, and again in the pirated version also they will clearly write. So your Windows Defender will alert, kill the Defender or close the Defender, and then install it and replace your system 32 with this particular file. Okay, I agree, Your Majesty. Okay, put it. So do you want any of my files to be replaced? You will ask the attacker. Right? So, good. Right? Great. So now, what is the inference? Let us summarize what we have learned. So, any system which is password protected fails to scan. Okay. So, the current LLMs are a thread, right? So, and it can create a new landscape for attackers for generating new attacks. Then, we have seen different set of examples. Anyone can populate anything, image, video, audio, writing style, right? And again, any signature can also be hidden, right? Perfect. So any doubt as of now? Any doubt as of now? Any doubt as of now? Perfect. So shall we move next? Okay, so I'll go for a quick walkthrough because I have a limited number of time. So I'll be okay. I'll walk through for another half an hour. Okay, so then you will have a CTF. That would be perfect, right? So, okay, fine. Okay, I'm just giving a very quick walkthrough because these are all basics only, right? So, as I said in the morning, So whatever the security systems which we have, it's up to only 10% of security that is going to give us. Rest of 90% is all our user awareness, right? So for making you to understand why cybersecurity is needed, so I have to walk through all the things, all the phases, right? So always keep this in mind, 90% of complete safety relying on us only. And again, how we are automating the security systems. Likewise, attacks are also automated. Attacks can also be launched as a campaign. So these are all typical example of how attacks, present day attacks could be automated. These are all some of the tools. And if you take the global cybercrime damage cost, which is going to happen for this financial year 2023 and for the financial year 2025, it is about to reach $10.5 trillion. $10.5 trillion. And again, the current landscape, the attackers are not only focusing on big companies, they are targeting all the entities starting from small, medium scale businesses, right? And again, so most of the small business scale haven't changed their action plan. Most of the task force are working in untrusted environment, which means work from home. Lot of companies haven't brought their resources back to the industry. They still allows them to work or operate from their home, right? So, and again, 82% of attacks or the probable cause is from their supply chain, right? So these are all some of the stats. So these are all top 10 countries experiencing the cyber attack in the current Q4, in this quarter, right? So importance of a security. So which system is considered to be more secure? The system which completely gets turned off, it's completely secured, right? But the system is not intended to build for that, right? A system has to work, operate, and it has to possess the property of high availability, right? So let me walk through for a quick thing. So I think CAA triad and other things, it got covered in the previous things, right? So let me quickly go for the direct thing. Okay. So attack vector, so let me clarify you with a few definitions. So what is meant by attack vector? What is meant by attack surface? Right? What is a payload? So what is basically an attack vector? Yeah, a path with which utilized by an attacker to get into a system, that is called as a attack vector, right? So the piece of code with which he is going to use to get into your system or to exploit any of your weakness in your system, also called as vulnerability, right? So that is called as payload, right? So if your system has multiple attack vector, right, multiple points of entry, right, so that summed all together is called as attack surface. Is that clear? Attack vector is the path of entry where the attacker gets into your system. Payload, the piece of code which is going to infect and gives the attacker access. That is called as a payload. So if your machine or your system has multiple attack vector, all together summed it called as attack surface. Vulnerability, a weakness or weak point with which a threat actor can take advantage. That is called as a vulnerability. Is that perfect? Is it clear? Okay. And if you take the top attack vector, so this is considered to be the top attack vector in recent times. Web browser, because everyone believes that, so everything is accessible via internet, and since human factor is one of the prime form for all these mischiefs, right? And how it is happening? No one is going to use CLI, everyone uses a browser. So that means a GUI, browser, and instant messaging clients, right? So downloading through any of your app, right? So and again now they have apps in browser capability, right? All the application has in browser capabilities, right? Yes or no? When you open any link in LinkedIn app, it won't redirect you to the other app. It will create its own in browser, and you are seeing on top of that application only. It is not communicating to the next application, right? So these are all some of the top attack vector, and this is a basic summary about a data breach. So let us start with the cybersecurity landscape. So if you look at the cybersecurity landscape, so it has a different diversified domain. So the first thing, let us start with the security operation, right? It has a security operation where you perform detection, protection, and you can go for recovery, vulnerability management, incident response, data leakage and data leakage prevention, all these things. When you go for threat intel, you go for completely analyzing the intelligence part of all the threats. And then when you go for risk assessment, then you try to implement risk assessment strategies. It could be a pen testing, right? And when you go for framework, there are different set of compliances for different companies. Suppose, for example, if you are talking about a healthcare company, they have to form or they have to follow HIPAA compliance. If it is a financial, then they have to go for PCI DSS, right? So likewise, each and every organization have their own scope, and based on the scope, compliances and standard gets into the picture, right? And carrier development, these are all other things. Security engineering, network design, data protection, what sort of algorithm you are going to use for data protection, all these things. You can able to see the full view of what's happening. And security engineering also has a main entity called access control. So where all your privileges, authentication, all these things comes into the action, right? And there is one more entity called physical security. So how you are going to impose physical security to protect your assets, that also plays a very major role, right? So, and governance takes care of audit, law and regulation and other perspective of the company's standard and specifics, right? So this is a broader view of cybersecurity. And in this context, what we are going to cover is, we are going to cover all these things, right? So since I am running out of time, I don't know whether I can able to cover threat intel or not, but I will try to give you at least a gist out of it. So we'll try to go with risk assessment. In risk assessment, we'll try to go for a pen testing. So I'll show you a live pen testing environment, and I'll show how the automated pen testing environment looks like, and how this automation helps the routine jobs gets automated, and how it works, and how it helps you when you go for a basic recon or any sort of a basic initial audit kind of thing. In either you play as a red team or blue team, it does not matter, right? So I'll show you that particular demonstration. Then for security operation, so we'll try to cover SIEM. Okay, so for SIEM, I am planning to go for any one open source tool. So I plan for going for Vazuk. So tomorrow we'll cover that. Okay. So and we'll see the how so far we are going. Based on that, we can try to expand the capacity of SIEM to XDR or not. We'll think about it. So because SIEM alone, how SIEM and XDR differs is, SIEM alone can aggregate the data, whatever the feed which you are getting. But how it can have XDR capacity is, so incorporating advanced intelligence to it, to make sure whatever the alerts these devices are producing, whether it is valid or not, it has to investigate. So that's the point, how we can make the SIEM capacity to convert or turn it into a XDR, that we'll see. Okay, so tomorrow, if time permits. But SIEM we can cover for sure. And for vulnerability scan also, vulnerability assessment and patch management, we'll go with one real-time tool using 6sense, right? So that these things we'll be covering tomorrow. So for again social engineering, we have covered the advanced social engineering attacks like deepfakes, and we'll also be covering now with a few other social engineering attacks like spear phishing, and how a phishing attacks goes live and how it looks like. All these things we'll be covering now, right? So what is basically an attack? What is basically an attack is about? What is basically an attack is about? So I have informed you about what is a vulnerability. Vulnerability means a weakness in a system. So what is a threat? A threat is a situation which can cause a potential harm to a particular system. That is what a threat. See, vulnerability, basically a weakness in a system. A system can be a hardware or a software. Either it can be on a host part or a network part. A threat, a situation or environment which can cause a potential harm to the system. So then what is the attack? Huh? Making use of vulnerability? Okay, so it could be a combination of your vulnerability and a threat. Altogether, it is going to cause something dangerous to the system. That is called as an attack. Then what is the intrusion? Then what is the intrusion?
Intrusion is basically when something that is unauthorized enters and stays or does something to your system.
That is attack. That is attack.
User is just getting in, attack is like exploiting after.
Intrusion will also exploit. Without exploiting, how will you get in? Right? There is a huge difference between these two words. Again, passive and active is something different. What is the basic difference between an attack and intrusion?
Attack causes harm, intrusion doesn't necessarily need to cause harm.
Who told you like that?
I mean,
No, it's not like that. Okay, but you attempted very nicely. I highly appreciate. I'll tell you the basic difference between an attack and intrusion. As I said, attack could be exploiting a vulnerability, or it can be a combination of vulnerability and a threat. Right? So if your attack is successful, then it is an intrusion. You got the point? A successful attack is an intrusion. A successful attack is an intrusion. Right? Okay, so now we'll see what is a vulnerability basically. So could you please I'll give you 5 minutes time. I want a quick output for this particular program. Write a simple C++ code. Write a very simple C++ code for a login system. Hey, listen carefully. Listen carefully, 1 minute. Listen carefully. I want you to write a simple C++ code for a login system, which should take a username and password as an input, and you, since you don't need to go for a DB, you do a string comparison with the hard-coded string inside your program itself. And if the string matches, if the user input string and the hard-coded string in both the field, username and password, matches, throw authenticated, otherwise unauthenticated. Simple. Okay, perfect. Okay. So how many of you completed the code? CPP, C++. Okay. So I also did the same. Could you please verify it? Huh? I am also going to do a simple string comparison. Huh? Is it right? Hey, just go. Let us go for a quick walkthrough of the code. Huh? Okay. How many variables I have? I have? Oh, I can't write overlay on it, right? So I have 3 variables, right? What is the size of this size, or how much memory I need for executing this particular piece of code? What is the total size of a memory required for executing this program? Okay, fine. So perfect. So now what is the logic behind it? So the declaration with size, right? So I have 3 variable. Authentication, it's a boolean variable, and by default it is set to 0. Okay, false, right? And again I have a char, right? C username, and again password. So this 2 variables are going to get my username and password in runtime. Hey, could you please kit. Just listen. Get in runtime. So then what happens? Then I am doing a conditional check of string comparison. If the runtime both gets matched, then what I am doing? I am turning the authentication boolean variable to 1. Okay, true. So when the authentication variable is 1, it has to throw me access granted. If the authentication variable is false, it has to throw me wrong username and password. Okay, so this is the setup. So now let me go for execution. Okay, so now what I have to give? Admin and admin pass, right? So admin pass, access granted. Hey, are you following me? Access granted. So now admin, and if I give password, what happens? Wrong username and password. So now what is going to happen? Error, wrong username and password, right? But what happened? Access granted. Why? What's the reason? What is the reason? Actually, it has to throw me wrong username and password, right? But why it gives me access granted? What's the reason?
Before the authentication value was 0.
Okay.
After writing a long text, the buffer overflowed and the allocated value for authentication changed and it is changed.
No, if you are talking about the authentication variable is getting changed, how? You can't say, right? You have to tell how it works. How it works. Whatever you said is right. It's a perfect, right? So I have a piece of code, the same program, and I am running and I am giving the thing, right? So this is what the illustration happened, right? So I have an authentication variable. What is the size of it? It's a true or false variable, right? 1. And this one? And this one? So what is the maximum value it can accept? 1, 10, 10, 21, right? So now what happens? So whenever you enter the wrong, or whenever you enter the maximum size which exceeds above this particular memory, what happens? Let us assume if you are typing P. So how many P's are there? Let us assume 23 P's are there. P, 10, again 10, and it is again overwriting on the authentication variable. When the authentication variable is overwritten, what happens? The authentication variable value changes from 0 to non-zero numerical, right? So that is what it happened. If you look at here, authentication variable before execution was 0. And now what happens? It gets overwritten, and now what happens? Here I am typing U, right? Lot of U and lot of P's, right? So what is the value it is giving? 117. And if you check for the ASCII value of, or ASCII value for P, you will get the same value, 117, or sorry, 112. Just try the ASCII value of P, small p. What is the value you are getting? 112, right? Same. That's what I am saying. Because the authentication variable is by default before execution, it goes 0. When you are filling the buffer touches the adjacent memory and it overwrites. That's how it happened. Is that clear? Assume the same login system is available in internet. Assume you are building a C++ web application and the web application has this vulnerability. What happens? A attacker don't need a username and password. Fill the buffer, get in, simple, right? So don't ever design such a bad authentication system, right? So now we are good to go for CTF. Huh? Is that fine? So rest of the other things will continue in next class tomorrow. So we'll go for a CTF.